This week, Justin and I find ourselves at the Grove Hotel in Hertfordshire with Ronan Keating.
Not only is he a multi-award-winning recording artist and West End star, he also happens to be a watch guy.
Thank you for joining us today, Ronan.
Delighted. Thank you.
First question, what got you into watches?
I'll tell you where it really began. My brothers and my sister emigrated to New York when I was very young, and they came back with watches. Now I was only like 9-10 years of age, but they came back with watches that they'd bought in New York. So when I made my first few pound, I promised myself a nice watch. So I bought myself a watch, and I convinced the other guys in Boyzone. Now I'm only 17 years of age at the time to buy a watch. So they all bought really nice watches, which they still have today. They never got the bug like I did, but they still have those watches today, and they're worth a lot more money than they bought them for, which is great. So I started wearing watches, all different types of watches, while I'm performing. And George Kern, who's the head of IWC, saw me wearing an IWC. And he sent me a letter saying, we see that you like IWCs, why don't you come and visit our factory where we make them in Schaffhausen, and also come to the SIHH, which is the watch fair in Geneva in January. Of course, I jumped at the chance. This was like kid in a candy store, absolutely. So I went along to Schaffhausen. It blew my mind. Fell in love, like I already knew IWC, you know, what they did, but I fell in love because I saw the extent of their design, and they had a watch for everything, every angle of my life. So whether I was swimming, whether I was wearing a suit, whether I was on stage, whether I was flying, I mean, whatever it was, travel, IWC had a watch for everything. Not a lot of watch companies do that. You know, they specialize in certain styles, and that's their thing. You know, the steel bracelet, and pretty much all of their watches have that. They may have a leather bracelet, you know, but it's not as extensive as what IWC did. And I just fell in love with it.
What was your first IWC?
The Big Pilot.
Why?
I loved it. It was my first oversized watch. I had a lot of mid-size, I had a lot of standard size watches, but I saw this Big Pilot, and I thought, wow, I've never seen anything like that. And then I started to learn about it and understand why it was oversized and the crown was so large, because the pilots needed to change the time with their gloves, and you know, all these little things that I'm sure there's people out there that have these watches on their wrist and they don't even know what they are or what they're about, but I love all of the detail behind it. So a similar version of this was my first. This wasn't it. This is the Father and Son, which is a take on that, which I was involved with. Cat Stevens and I were involved with launching this piece. So this is the Father and Son. So this is the father, and then the son is pretty much exactly the same watch, but slightly smaller. And on the back, it has Pilot Ronan, and on the smaller piece, it has Co-Pilot Jack, which is my son's name. Amazing. So my first watch was similar to this, but it had a black face, black strap, steel. This is platinum. And it just went on from there. That's when the love affair with watches really, truly took over.
When did you realise you had a problem?
When my driver, we used to drive through Knightsbridge, and my driver used to say, "Row, are we stopping off as usual?" And I went, no. I thought, oh, this is a problem. I was driving by Watches of Switzerland, and it used to be like a little ritual. Stopping at Watches of Switzerland to see what was new. It was crazy. I used to actually start leaving the boxes in the watch shop and just taking the watch. And I've left watch boxes in certain shops that I've never got. How bad is that? That's terrible. But, you know, it's my thing. It's a passion. I love it. Yeah.
It's completely unfair. But the house is burning down. You've got one piece to take with you. Which do you take?
Well, yeah, okay, look, I know what you're saying, and I have to answer it right. So I've loads of answers for this, but the right one is, okay, so for our wedding, because what I'd say is, because I have watches in different places, so it's okay.
Yeah.
They're not all in one place, and I think I'd advise anyone to do the same if you're in my situation. But this Portofino, which is a beautiful blue face, blue leather strap, that with R&S on the back, which was for our wedding. It was a commission for my wife and I last year. So R&S, Ronan and Storm. And my wife, funny enough, my wife is here as well. So, you know, this is convenient. I didn't realize it was in this role. So this is Storm's version of the same with R&S engraved on the back. So his and hers Portofinos. they're very special, obviously, because of what they mean to us. So they're very, very special pieces. And if I had to grab two, I think these would be the two I grab. But in saying that, my favorite piece at the moment is probably the one on my wrist.
Tell us about that one.
This is the Time Zoner, which actually doesn't come out until later in the year.
Yeah.
So this is a prototype, which I'm very lucky to get my hands on. Lewis Hamilton and I both fought over this watch because he fell in love with it as well. And this is a real incredible piece, very complex movement. But the dial moves, you push it in slightly, it moves, and the hour will change to whatever country you're in, to the time zone that you're in, which is incredible and very exciting for me who travels daily. I'll get on a plane to Australia in the morning and I'll be turning that dial pretty much all the way around. So this piece is amazing and it's beautiful. It's very different for IWC because of its, it's quite complex in the face, whereas a lot of their, pieces are far more simple. Like this watch here, the oversized, the big pilot. It's very, very simple, very elegant, not a lot going on the face. Whereas this one has a very different, so it's different for IWC, but I'm totally in love with it at the moment.
Tell me, did Storm show an interest in watches before you guys were together, or was this something that she developed and your passion rubbed off on her?
I definitely rubbed off on her. Yeah, her passion has grown from my passion, really, and I love that she really does love it. It's great that I've introduced her to that.
Thank you very much, Ronan.
Guys, thanks for your time, and thanks for allowing me to talk about my passion, because I don't get to talk about it enough. So it's a pleasure. Thank you. Good on you.
Cheers.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.